See, overall speaking, if you're talking about timing, this is going to be a challenge. Trust me, this is going to be a challenge because you might be able to write, you might have the speed to write the entire paper, 50 pages in 3 hours, but that is when we know all the content. So for instance, if you're talking about, let us say, a paper like ethics, it'll be relatively easier. I believe so. It will be relatively easier because the amount of time that the hand is sort of like moving is going to be, quite a bit, because what is to be written. But in anthropology, while your hand will do that, there is also a certain amount of time that you have to take in order to think and craft a structure for a particular answer. And there will be certain questions in which you have to create answer then and there. Okay, it has to be generated in that particular exam hall. That will require a certain amount of brainstorming. So you also sort of factor in not only the writing speed, but also the thinking speed. Okay, so thinking speed. So let me put it here. So thinking speed. Thinking speed or time. Thinking speed or time, especially the brainstorming portion. Okay, how much time exactly it's going to take for a certain amount of brainstorming to be done, right? So factor that in as well. So this also has to be sort of factored in. Okay, but generally, overall speaking, if all the questions are of equal sort of difficulty level, so it will be 7 minutes approximately for 10. Okay, 15 markers going to be around 11 minutes, and 20 markers going to be around 14. So let's say you have 10 markers. It's supposed to be around 70 to 75 minutes. Okay, but I would suggest that you try to focus on 60 to 70 minutes. Because 10 markers are relatively easier in some way. Okay, because the way in which you want to structure an answer is not dictated by the question, but it is dictated by you, right? What are the areas that you want to emphasize and what are the areas that you want to de-emphasize? Whereas in the long answer, where it's 15 marker, 20 marker, it becomes relatively difficult in that regard because what they want you to speak about is something that they will mention very clearly in the question itself. Right, so they will talk about the biosocial determinants of fertility and fecundity or something, or they'll talk about the significance and also the implementation issues when it comes to the Forest Rights Act. So what are the two different aspects? They're asking you to write about the Forest Rights Act, what exactly is it, and then also the significance and also the implementation challenges that are being faced. So they will give you a direct sort of a thing. So in 10 marker, I believe that you can even keep it to 60 to 70 minutes. Okay, and I think that could be possible as well. If you're doing it especially towards the end, if you're a little pressed for time, you will be able to squeeze those in. Depends on what is the strategy that you want to use. Okay, generally I would say that the best time to practice full length, the best thing to essentially practice for your full length test is to try to keep the time limit in mind and try to work against the time, right? So have a plan. So very first test, maybe you want to go with go in an order from start to the end. Probably the second time you try to do all the short answer questions first and then the long answer second, or you would want to go with the long answer questions and then the short answer questions later. But try to see if there is a strategy that you would want to test and then try it multiple times during the exam, during these tests, to ensure that it is something that is working for you. Okay, it really depends on your strength and your weakness as well. If you're a person who is going to have who's very productive towards the fag end of the paper, okay, the last 15-20 minutes you're going to be very sort of productive. Okay, under stress, if you can deliver, then you can keep I think that'll be good. So you'll have to follow a strategy. But let's say that there are many of us who are not necessarily very good in the last 15-20 minutes. Okay, under stress you're not able to think, so taking up any sort of a difficult question during that time period is going to backfire. So in those sort of for at least for those kind of students, it is better to keep some of the easier questions, okay, or moderate questions where you can still handle it towards the last 15-20 minutes. If not, at least keep the structure ready so that you know exactly what is going to be required in order to craft that particular answer. But thinking work is probably not there. It is just mechanically just writing down based on the structure and ideas that you've already brainstormed first. Okay, so these are all the things that I'd probably suggest. Okay, more revisions, a lot of writing, and also focusing on the thinking speed. I think all of these sort of elements will probably help you to make the most out of it, right? So there are 50 pages that are going to be given. You want to ensure that you are giving your best in all 50 questions or 50 pages, right? So you do not want to be 45 pages or 46 pages. What if your rank that you want is just these 4 pages will matter to a great extent. So 50 pages should be a non-negotiable deal, right? And see to what extent you can write and practice that as well.